because there should be a bit of a delay on YouTube. But yeah, other than that, I think we might be good to go by now. So, welcome everyone. Welcome. Yes, I'm seeing some GMs in the chat. That's a great sign. GM, everyone, welcome. I'm really glad you could make it for our final session. It's been a crazy ride. Um, I'm sure you guys experienced a lot of growth throughout all of this, all the courses, the quizzes, the bounties. And we're here today to wrap it up with a very, very special panel. Got some great people here. We're really, really proud of this absolutely star-studded panel today. I'll be introducing them shortly. But first, we got a couple things that I want to tell you. First of all, for the ones that don't know me, I'm Helix. I do growth at Metrics DAO. So I'm involved with the events, the partnerships, content, all that good stuff. And I also love doing interviews. And today I'll be doing a whole panel. So that's exciting. What else is exciting is that we got new courses coming up. So if you enjoyed this one, you're gonna like the next ones more. You can continue your education and gain some specialized knowledge of specific ecosystems this time. So we got a course on ETH, a course on Near, and a course on Algorand. I'll be sharing the links to those in the chat. You can sign up for those. And you can continue your education. So that's really cool. Other than that, we got a very, very cool announcement, which is we're launching the Metrics app. We're doing a whole community call on that Thursday. So be sure to tune in on our Discord. If you go into our Discord, you can find it in the events, and we'll have our lead developer joining the call, and she'll be telling you all about it. Also, before we start, we did a joke race, meaning we had a little contest on the educational bounties that all of you did, to see who did best. Of course, we're all winners, but we wanted to reward like the best dashboard with a little bit of extra X metric. So Analysts, you won the joke race. You'll be getting 100 X metric airdrop to you. So congrats. Everyone, shout out Analysts. Yay, Analysts. Got emoji. Yes, sir. Awesome. All right, guys, later on we'll be dropping the attendance form, so don't forget to register. But other than that, we are about to start our panel. So we got some great guests that I want to welcome to you. We got Agaperste, who is a wizard, who is wizard relations, or she does, I should say, she does wizard relations at Doom. So she was working in finance before, and she was asked, actually, I find this a funny story. She was asked to learn more about digital assets. And so she did, and she fell deep into the rabbit hole, as she says, and she's liked it so much that she decided, you know what, I'm gonna switch over, and that's when she started working at Doom as Wizard Relations. So that's really cool. We got Andrew Hong, which also works at Doom, and he's in fact the hat master there. He entered Web3 in the summer of 2020, so I would consider him a veteran in this space. He's a key educator for on-chain analysts, for the on-chain analyst community, I should say. He does a newsletter, he does tutorials, and he has the Data Degens group. And he's also a renowned Doom wizard. You'll find him up there on the leaderboard. And finally, we got Hildobby, who does data at Dragonfly, the VC. He's also a top Doom wizard. You'll be sure to know him, as he has built many notable dashboards. And he was actually studying data science, but he decided, you know what, let's skip all that. Let's go straight to the league. And he's been working in Web3 data analytics ever since. He did a little bit for Geico, and now he's at Dragonfly. So welcome, guys. Glad to have you here.
Hello. Hello. Thanks for the intro.
Glad to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
definitely. It's an honor. I spoke with some of you before, some of you not. I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you, in fact, a little bit better today, as will our cohort. Um, and yeah, let's start it off. Actually, we got lots of great questions from our cohort. We asked them beforehand. Everybody could send in their questions. And there were some really amazing ones, but there was also a really funny one. Uh, bit, bit tongue in cheek, but somebody asked, Ambulance, actually, our winner from the contest. He asked, and I would like to know this from all of you: how much time do you actually spend on Twitter? Is it a big part of being a Web3 analyst?
I'm definitely
I
on Twitter
spend
more than I should be.
same, exactly the same. Way too much.
Jackie?
I feel like I should be more on Twitter, but I'm doing like a purge on all the social media plus YouTube and Netflix right now. So I try not to
Oh, good.
touch that much.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
So at
you're
least
so
we
pure,
got
Jackie.
one.
I
Yes.
don't know about that.
I was gonna say we got at least one person who's doing a bit of a detox, maybe more of a should. But okay, I found this a funny question, but at the same time, it's kind of a legit question because I feel like a big part of this work is we're like, okay, how should I say this? I think you guys know what I mean. Like, it's important for a Web3 analyst to be seen, to be visible, to be out there. And Twitter is obviously a big part of that. Jackie, what made you decide to do a bit of a detox?
Yeah. I feel like Twitter, along with other part of social platforms, are just it's just like too much. And then yeah, like I totally agree with you. Like in Web3, I started reusing my Twitter from like pretty much high school because but, like I didn't use it after high school, and then I started reusing it after getting into crypto because it's so like crucial. Like you get all the information, you get to know the people, and then also you get yourself out there through Twitter. Um, but then it's also, I feel like it's a kind of dangerous game. These things are like kind of like designed to get you hooked. So December, I just decided like, let's try for a month of detox and see. And then sometimes like with Twitter's thread, I do think you can get like high quality content, but more and more, I think with the high quality content thread, people would like make it like a Substack newsletter. They would present it in a different format anyways. So I found it just like a bit better to consume it like not on Twitter, but like rather on like Substack.
Interesting. So you see a bit of a shift going on.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm like doing it too much, as in like I'm not present enough now. So definitely have FOMO about like, oh, I should like do it more.
Cool. All right. Interesting. Andrew, what about you? Because you've been here for a long time, as I said in the intro. I feel like so many the prominent people in the space right now really built their reputation and their careers off of Twitter in some regards. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're purely just trying to learn right now, then Twitter is a lot of noise and you're more likely to get distracted than actually learn how to do things. But once you get to the point of like actually being able to build out a dashboard and like you have some sort of cool insight to share, then yeah, you do have to learn to use Twitter and probably discourse like discourse, honestly, more than Discord, in my opinion, to kind of share and get your insights out there. Because 10% of the job is like the analytics work, 90% is actually convincing people that it's important and like getting people to use it to make decisions. Because we can put out all the cool charts we want, but if it's only like us analysts looking at it, it's not actually doing anything for the ecosystem. So
Good point. Good point. You mentioned discourse. Can you touch a little bit more on that real quick? Because a lot of our
mm,
participants are newcomers to the space.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So basically almost every DAO has a discourse for their kind of like governance and development forum kind of things. It's where they
Mhm.
kind of soft launch or soft talk about different governance proposals to change things like supply caps in like compound like V3 borrowing and lending, right? Or like changing fees and whatnot for Uniswap, et cetera, et cetera. Adding tokens on Aave. So if you go onto discourse for any of these protocols, you'll start to be able to plug into like what are people constantly talking about and what metrics are they constantly referencing. And you'll find a lot of what they do is kind of still in Excel sheets, which is fine. Like there's nothing wrong with Excel. But if you can provide them with like like some sort of Web3 data and charts that's like much more interactive and teach people like, oh hey, like we did this, and if you want to fork it, you can keep going with your analysis. It's a lot easier to get buy-in that way.
Interesting. So that's well, maybe we'll get to that later as well. So for people who are here and they are interested, and probably you are, otherwise you are not here. If you're interested to get more involved in the space, at some point you'll probably join a DAO or like another community, and this will become like part of your day to day, as Andrew mentioned. So yeah, moving on a little bit. I want to touch a little bit about on, kind of career questions that we got from different people from our cohort. Um, one as a warming up, let's say. I find this an interesting question because a lot of people are transferring or transitioning to this space from something else. Not, yeah, maybe some people come straight out of college, actually, like you did, Hildobby. So maybe I wonder what you think about this question. The question was from straight up. He asked if we see any, or if you see any transferable skills from your time prior to Web3. What would you say to that? Like, how well did you adapt in that sense?
Well, it depends on your background, first off, I think. But in general, there's a lot of stuff that you can transfer from a more traditional background. And well, I mean, it can be so many things. For me, I think the main things are like I learned data in high school and stuff, and how to look into do some data analytics. I didn't know any SQL whatsoever, but I knew the basic concepts of data, and I think that definitely helped. It's hard. Otherwise, if you want to make cool dashboards, there's also, if you have a good eye, or you've had some kind of visual work in the before, that can also help to make maybe your dashboard stand out visually. But yeah, I think most importantly to me is like making stats as easy to understand as possible, and trying to make sure they're super concise, and that's definitely something I learned by doing data analytics in school. So yeah, there's I don't know. It really depends on your background, but I think there's always transferable skills from your background.
Yeah, we talked before. Like I remember you before doing data in Web3, you were already doing some data work not in Web3. I think that's a situation a lot of people can relate to. How, like, about that transition specifically, what did you really take from before, and what was the biggest challenge coming into this space?
What I took from before is definitely Python skills. Those are, I mean, for any kind of data work, it's always super useful. I think it is the best language to do local data analytics. What I didn't know, but isn't, once you know other programming languages, I think it's not that daunting. I learned SQL by just querying and forking other people's queries, but having known other programming languages in the past definitely helps running a new one just in any situation, not just Web3. And then otherwise, I learned a lot of modeling work, which I'm not currently applying. For now, I'm mostly doing, I guess, higher level analytics, but I kind of want to eventually dive into that as well.
Interesting. Okay, so modeling, knowing different languages. I think for a lot of our cohort, SQL is actually like the first language. So that's good to start out with. But like as you say, there are more out there, and it's definitely interesting to look into different ones. All right, moving on a little bit, but staying on the subject of learning and career progression. Jackie, you've been doing wizard relations now. You did a workshop, a demo, actually with us on Spellbook when that first launched. You've been doing a lot of education. So one of our also straight up, one of our participants asked, so while you were learning or are learning and teaching Web3, did it get easier or did it actually get more complex?
Interesting question.
Right.
I think it's just there's always parts that gets easier and then parts that get harder. In the beginning, like when I just got into crypto, it was a lot about learning, and a lot about like struggling to find the best way of learning, right? So then back then it was like, I guess, difficult to do that. But then as I start thinking about like contributing back to the community, start doing dashboard, and like now eventually start doing educational content, then it's like now I think more about like how do I teach people, like get across the content, like what type of educational resource would be helpful to people. So I think it's not always, it's always changing. It's always very fun to like deal with different challenges. So yeah, I don't think it gets like easier or harder. There's just like different challenges that you face at different times. Yeah. Hopefully that
Right,
makes
right.
sense.
Yeah, I think I understand what this person was getting at with his question, because for me at least, like when I first started, it was like very hard. Some things it's hard to wrap your head around, and you catch yourself thinking like, man, will this get easier? And I think part of it does, but it's actually on the other hand, you run into new challenges, and that's actually the thing that keeps it interesting. Otherwise, it would just get boring, right?
Yes, exactly. Like in the beginning, like I wouldn't really know like this whole like blockchain structure thing. Like even though I knew database, like it was just like what are we looking here? And then it was just like a lot of research about like the blockchain's data structure and like reading a lot about what Andrew has written on like the Medium article. And then nowadays I do know about that and I feel more comfortable. But then like now you have that skill, like naturally that you would want to start digging further and further for like different type of questions. But then in a way, like I guess I feel more comfortable, like I feel equipped with resources, like I know where to go to find these resources. So I think in that sense, like as you get more comfortable in the space, yes, like it does get easier. But in terms of like interesting challenges, it keeps being interesting.
Great. I think that's the best answer that this person could actually hope for, because otherwise it would just get boring, I think, for him. Even if he doesn't feel this way maybe right now, but you'll get to that point as well, straight up. I promise. And a question that I think relates to all of you, but I'll be asking it to you, Andrew. Um, One that's very relevant also for this cohort going forward, going out into the space. Sardi is specifically asked if you have any tips for freelancing in Web3 data analytics outside of bounties, because of course bounties is the obvious one. And I think a bit from stuff that you have done in the past that I think you might have an idea with this question.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's no solid answer to this. I think it very, very much depends on your skill level, and you have to be honest with yourself on this. If you're, let's see, the easiest way is if you find some protocol that's like constantly deploying changes or deploying a new version. If you reach out to them and like basically have like half an example of like, hey, I've already started looking into like Compound V3. Here's what I have. I'm gonna put in a request for like 5 or 10K or something in USDC, and it can go through governance or whatnot. That is one way of doing things, just basically being proactive and reaching out to them and saying, hey, this could be useful for you, or that could be useful for you. This is how much it's going to cost. Here's an example of like, I've already started looking into it. I'd say right now it's definitely harder because so many protocols have kind of shut down or paused their grants committees. And I haven't done much freelancing in the last few months, so I don't have an amazing answer for it. It's definitely a problem that's top of mind for me as well, is like how to help facilitate newer analysts and whatnot in doing their first like freelance jobs. If you think you're a top analyst, you can definitely always apply to Dune has a resident wizard program where we'll pay you to basically do great work for us. So I will show that out there, but other than that, yeah, you have to be like really proactive. I would say it's much less like in the bull market, opportunities would just come to you through DMs like fairly often, I would say. But things are definitely quieted down now. You have to be very proactive about like chasing down these opportunities. But that's just kind of my experience with it.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, and please like do chill. That's definitely cool, especially for stuff like this that people are definitely interested in that. So please do. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess that it almost sounds a bit like in that way you build a bit of stability, because that way you might have a regular stream of work with this protocol or this project that will depend on you, and it might even grow into like a how do you say that, like a fixed position with that company. It sounds like to me, at least.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, relationship building is a big part of it because in this space, most top analysts, like it's not like typical products where like every product team will hire a data analyst at some point. A lot of analysts that like do good work for protocols sit outside of the protocol team, so you have to be your own like PM, basically an advocate, which is much harder than just doing the analysis.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta be like a one man band, as they say sometimes. Definitely gotta have different type of skills on lock. Let's say it's not just the analyst work, right? And about like our Custy is another one of our participants who asked a question related to this. And please do feel free to take this question as well, Andrew. he asked specifically on this, like, what's smarter? What would you do? What would you recommend? Either focus on a niche, so like a specific smaller protocol or smaller chain or smaller project, because his thinking was that, okay, it's easier to build those relations that you mentioned and to get noticed, or alternatively, do you go for like the bigger projects or stay and focus on well-known areas? And his thinking behind that was that there's much more interest in that, so you might have a bigger shot of like reaching a relevant audience, etc., etc. Is there a wrong and a right in this sense?
I don't have a strong opinion. Hildobby, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think it's kind of it depends what kind of what you're into. I think also when you're starting as an analyst, it's probably easier to target like smaller communities because it's easier to get noticed, and also they may not have analytics built out. So if you can contribute and actually bring in some relevant work, just like Andrew was saying, and like surfacing, and then that's a great way to eventually build a relationship and grow from there as an analyst, and also get rewarded for it. But then once you've grown a bit further, probably is also interesting to expand. The way I kind of did it is that when I was freelancing, is that I used to do freelance gigs for like more specific protocols, and then I did just for myself, and also because I was just interested and I couldn't find it out there, more macro dashboards and trying to publish those. But I don't think there's any right or wrong. It's just that my main recommendation is try to not rehash what's already out there, but actually bring value by surfacing something that's new, and that can be done on almost anything, even the really big protocols. Even Uniswap, I'm sure you can surface really cool stats if you really dig into the nitty-gritty stats. So yeah, there's no specific preference, I don't think. I think I like doing both personally, and it's a personal thing, I think.
Okay, that's interesting. But okay, maybe it does sound like what I am getting from his answer is that maybe it's not so much about focusing on it's more about focusing on something that has not been done before, whether it's in a very niche area or something well known. Would that be a good conclusion?
Yeah, I think that's the number one thing. I think otherwise the main thing as well, that the difference between like doing more targeted analytics on specific protocols is that for those you're more likely to get rewarded for it, whereas more macro you're not gonna get a reward as easily, but you might get more views if you it might be better for your personal marketing, I guess. So maybe a balance between the two is a good thing. It really is how you feel. There is no better answer to this, to be honest.
Right. And this also depends on a person's specific situation. Like if you got a main job and you're covered financially, then maybe you can take more freedom in just going for things that might create a big buzz. And for other people who have like bills to pay from this work, they might have to handle a different strategy, right? So okay, interesting takes. So there's not an easy yes or no answer, as in so many things in Web3 and in life. But it depends a lot on context. All right. So I, I actually had a question of my own as well. I'm here in the space to learn as well, and so I had to plug my own question in there because I'm curious what you guys think about this. And of course, I think it would be helpful for people from our course to know. I'm wondering, I think Andrew might have a good view on this. So the question is, what are recent examples of strategies that you've seen used by upcoming analysts to either capture attention, make a name for themselves, or start a new gig? Basically, to get any desirable outcome as a career wise as a Web3 analyst, right? Um, yeah. Any recent examples of strategies that you've seen used by upcoming analysts that surprised you in this regard or captured your attention?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I think there's two main strategies. One is like being the aggregator. Like obviously, like all of the panelists here put out really cool dashboards and analysis, and there's people who kind of just take and quote tweet all of those and like put in a thread and be like, here are the best like NFT dashboards, and just like quote tweet Hildobby and like show 6 of his dashboards and kind of explain how to use them. It's like stuff like that always does well. And the other like almost fail safe way is like when you do cool analysis, like DM it to us on like Twitter or Telegram. If you reach out to us with something cool, like we will try and help and share it and make it better. And that's like kind of the most fail safe way of improving, because I think there's a lot of people that I see in like my group or like DM me who are kind of like scared to share their work, or they kind of put it out there and then don't do anything with it. Like if you tweet out your work, like take the link to your tweet and like push it everywhere, and like get people's feedback. Be kind of shameless about it, because like again, yeah, we're all like the data community. We're all happy to help each other and like shield each other and support each other. But you have to like reach out and ask. And yeah, like I've seen people who, like have one really good tweet showcasing their work and they can get hired off of it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, big alpha here, guys. He basically said it. If you got something cool, just share it with them. Just like send it to them, and you know it might get reshared. And I I, I can tell from experience, like if I've seen a couple people like really blow up because other people start sharing it and it goes viral. And like Andrew, like you said, people get hired off of that, you know. Um, and then also like Dune is a good example of like a big account that if they share your stuff, a lot of people see that. Like we're talking about like tens of thousands of impressions of one retweet. Same goes for accounts as Dune. Metrics Thou has a pretty decent, you know, following. If we share you, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of eyeballs, you know. But like you said, you got to be shameless about it. That's one thing I definitely see. Agaperste, another question. This is somebody that asked this question, question from Fav, that I can fully relate to, because well, I'm still in learning mode anyway. But I was doing this cohort basically the last time back in August, so it's really fresh. He asked, while you were learning or are learning, we never stop learning, I think. What are your strategies for when you get stuck? What is your process? And I guess this relates specifically to like when you're doing analytics work, right? I think we can all relate to those moments where you're like, what do I do now? You know?
Yeah, I have the same struggle still. Still learning. I, I see it more like a dance situation, like cha-cha-cha, right? It's always like
Nice.
knowing when to move in and when to move out. So it's like you definitely need the discipline to keep pushing through. You don't quit. Like don't rage quit like the first time you get stuck, right? Like that's not good. You should have the discipline to keep going and be a little patient, but you should also like be kind to yourself. I guess like know your own limit. Like sometimes taking a break really is the way to move forward. So like kind of like knowing, hey, like I've been at this problem for like 2 hours, I'm not making progress. Let's just stop, go take a walk, sleep on it, and then next day come back to it. So yeah, so I would say like just my strategy is just like trying to through practice know when to keep going and when to stop. And other than that, another important aspect I think is just don't be afraid to reach out and get help. Kind of like related to like shamelessly like just plugging your like own content like on Twitter. I think the same way, like don't be afraid to just like reach out to people. Like you're not like they're on the receiving end of the message, right? Like, but you don't like I still struggle with this. I'd be like, oh, like maybe I'm bothering this person, but then like they are managing their own like message, right? So it's just like they if they're busy, they just like won't read it or won't reply to it. But like the just like don't overthink about it. Just like go reach out for help if you need to. But yeah, and then other than that, I guess like something comes up to mind. It's just like make a plan for what you're make a plan for what you're trying, like have a goal, have a goal and have a plan on how to reach there, rather than just like because sometimes when you're learning, you can like get lost in the amount of like material. So like you click in one link, right, and then you keep clicking on like 10 links in the same article, and then you kind of like get lost. So sometimes like taking a step back on like, hey, like why am I doing this right now? Like does this like fit my goal for the week, whatnot? Yeah, so I guess in summary, go in, like don't give up on when you first get stuck, but also like knowing how to when to take a break, and then also reach out for help when you are stuck.
Great. Two great points, I think. And that's also such a big part of like what the communities that we are part of are about. Like it's like people can literally jump in the Discord and just ask their question and somebody will help you. Like I guarantee you, like people will help you. Like I've had that too, like you build a dashboard, like, hey, what's wrong with this query? And somebody will help you in no time. And sometimes that really is the easy answer. Related to that, we got a question from the audience just now that actually kind of pertains to this. So I want to go ahead and share it. So let's do a quick 3 top 5 each. I'll start with you, Hildobby. The question will pop up right now. How do you find these communities, especially as you are starting out? So communities where people can help you, you know, with your data questions, advanced in Web3. When I say top 3, let's do like a top 3 of like communities. Not so much about how do you find them, but let's just give them the answers. Go ahead, top 3.
So the ones I think Discord, be it Metrics DAO, I don't know, Dune, Flipside, whatever, each of those, depending on what you're into and what platform you're using, is definitely a really good way to learn and help one another. I'm mostly very active on like the Dune Discord, and I see whenever a question is posted, like there's very quickly a response, or someone will come and help out. There's even a resident wizard that has been active since forever ago and answers all the questions. So that's super useful. And then Andrew has a group as well, which is super cool. And I'm not gonna. I'll let Andrew talk about his group, but I think it's a great way to learn about the space, and he does educational content, which is super cool. He even released, actually, Andrew also released some cool stuff on Twitter today to learn some how to get started with Dune. That's probably, yeah, I don't know. The Discord and Andrew's group are probably the two I would link to the most. and then Twitter occasionally, but that's very, it really depends on the. I don't have any go-to place on Twitter. But yeah, those are the two things I can think of on the top of my head.
Andrew, tell us a little bit about your group. We're curious.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I have a little Telegram group. I think we're over 100 people now. Where if you collect one of my articles on Mirror, you can join the group, and then I'll basically personally answer any of your questions, share cool things and opportunities in the space. Currently still working on rebranding it and finding more ways for people to join and get involved. More on that's going to come next year. But yeah, I'd say honestly, easiest way to like find communities is like find any like cohort based course that's starting up. So either like the one that Metrics DAO is doing now, and I think rerunning next month, if I'm not wrong. Like Jackie and I, Agaperste and I, are doing a 12 days of Dune like Uniswap course right now, and there's like 15, 20 people who have been coming to like office hours every day. Like these are both free. We're gonna have more courses like next year as well. So that way it's like you're finding a group of like people who are at like similar skill levels and like all learning together. And then that's kind of going to be like your group of best friends going through or going through the space and learning. Like all of us have learned and grown together. So in our little group as well, I think in this space it kind of always follows like a year or 2 year cohort kind of thing where like all the people who created like Nansen and Flipside and like Dune and Parsec and all of these were like the last generation, the 2016 kind of generation of data nerds. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind is like, all right, yeah, you can join as many of these discords and groups as you want, but you really want to get close to the people who are like learning, contributing together. And yeah, there's always going to be like new quote unquote generations of it, though the generations are like 8 months long. So
yeah, no, for sure. Actually, touching on that, one of the first resources I found was actually, I don't remember what it was called, but it was a cohort that Dune did like a year ago, maybe.
oh, is it the R Network? The R Network
Yes,
Learn
our
course?
network. Actually,
Yes,
and
yeah,
you were
that was
actually
ages
an
ago.
instructor on that one as well.
Yeah, I
So,
put
and
together the
that's
syllabus.
still up. People can still find it.
Yes, yeah, it's a little, the content's a little out of date now. We'll have a new version of that eventually. But yeah, that was like, I think out of that cohort of like 30, 20 of them are full time in the space in some capacity.
Wow.
At like various top protocols and data startups. So yeah, cohort, like finding these cohort based programs is like probably one of the best things you can do. Like if you're just out there learning and suffering alone, it's gonna be so much harder.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. All right, Jackie. Can you maybe give like how do we find Andrew's group? Somebody asked. Ooh.
I'll put it in the chat, but you guys go on.
Hey. Okay, so yeah, I promise we would do everyone. So Jackie, what would you recommend? Let's say 3 specific Discord communities that you would really recommend people to go to if they're learning about this.
I feel like this session is about me realizing I'm kind of a boomer. About my Twitter, about Discord, I really like, I'm not on these platforms that much. I can call two top groups. Yeah. One being Dune, and then one being Metrics DAO. I started getting involved in Web3 actually through Metrics DAO as like my first like Discord community. So it's like very special in my heart. And then Dune, it's just like you can always just get answers like really quickly. And then now I also work at Dune. So that's 2 of the communities I can think about. But I do want to make like a plugin on like finding the community, not like this is the community recommend. I think it's really good. Like if you go on like Medium, Substack, like even LinkedIn, right? Like, okay, boomer again, like ousted myself. Like you can just like, you can see the people who put out content and then just reach out to these people and like see what part of a group they are belonging to, talk to them, and then build that connection and like build that relationship that way. Because once I still think we're a very small community compared to like let's say like a Web2 type of community, right? Like we're still very small, so a lot of people like know each other. We're all in like some sort of a shared group. So I think like once you find the in, you're gonna be able to like discover like different data groups out there, like different angles and talking about like Web3. So just like finding that one in, I think is like the hard part.
Okay. Well, that's even better. You basically gave them the strategy on how to find these communities. You know, as they say, like don't give a man fish, teach him how to fish, something like that, right? That's basically what you did.
Yeah.
So I think Faf couldn't be happier. Hildobby, I remember the first time we met live was at DoomCon. It was right after you were also doing a panel actually, and I remember you being very big on data visualization. You find that so important. And like the question from our next question from I'm gonna butcher this, I'm sorry, but I believe it's Biku Krzyzewski. Wow, I'm very sorry. It's hard for me to pronounce that. But his question is, and it's a very specific question, so maybe you don't have an answer for it, but his question is, are there any books he asked that you recommend on data visualization specifically? And I would maybe say alternatively, some other resources on this if you cannot name books.
So books, I can't name any. I don't think so. Not on the top of my head, at
I
least.
imagine.
But I definitely have some tips, which is that make your charts as easy to understand as possible, because essentially most people looking at your charts will give it a 3-second attention span, and if they can't understand what's going on within those 3 seconds, they'll click away and move on. And then the biggest way to do better is probably to like learn of what you see, and basically what you see and what you like, try to copy those methods and use them for yourself. I definitely am like pretty big on visualization. I think it's really big because there's so many dashboards that are actually great in their content but are horribly presented, and they therefore get lost because no one really looks at them because they're kind of confusing and everything. And also maybe you have like you have like charts at the very bottom, and then you have a whole blob about your life and who you are at the top, but like that's not necessarily what people want to see when they click on your Uniswap dashboard. They want to just see the charts that are relevant. So go straight to the topic. Don't try to go around and like yeah, and make it as easy to understand. That's like the number one tip to me.
Yeah, I definitely hear you there. Like, I do growth, so I'm a bit of a marketeer. So in that sense, I definitely get that. Like, it's a big part of this space at this moment is marketing your work. You gotta make it like digestible for people. Like, if you build a dashboard that nobody looks at, it's like that saying, like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make any sound? It's like it's kind of the same with dashboards. Like, if nobody sees it, it's a pity, because then your work has gone away. So like Hildobby said, like you might want to put as much effort in the presentation as in everything that's on the back end, right? So we're we're nearing the hour mark. We still got 2 questions to go, so we're gonna wrap it up almost. But we saved some interesting questions for last. Let's see. Yeah, I got one specifically in mind that I'm saving for Andrew. But first, I got another one. Um, I'm not sure who to ask this one, but let's say I'll ask Agaperste. If you don't know, I'll ask Hildobby. Somebody asked, A Monk asked, and it's very interesting with everything that's been going on lately in the Twitter space. Sorry, Jackie. But there was a lot of discussion about chat about GPT and AI, and like the future is coming, as we all know. So somebody asked, I think it was a bit inspired by that, maybe subconsciously. Somebody asked, what will the role of machine learning be in Web3 analytics? Because it's already a part of it, maybe not big, I don't know. But how do you see this going forward?
Yeah, I did see ChatGPT. I think that's how much it went viral, even though I wasn't on Twitter that much. Yeah, I actually had a background in more like machine learning, data science, kind of like modeling before coming into crypto. So I think this whole like machine learning aided thing has been around for a long time, and obviously like especially with like language models, we're getting better and better. And like if you ask Chat GPT, like the other day, Andrew and I were just like doing some regex like stuff, and then like we literally asked Chat GPT, and like Chat GPT was able to like give us the right answer, and then we weren't even like we couldn't Google to find the correct answer, and Chat GPT did. So I think just like this, there's certain things that like ML models will be good at. And then my hypothesis, it would just be like, like 200 years ago, we didn't have like washing machines, right? And then now we have washing machine, but that doesn't mean that like we just like do less stuff. It actually like we are able to have more like innovations in the world. We're able to do more things in the world. So same thing with like machine learning. I think it will just like try to speed up the way we do analytics, and it aids us to do analytics, but it won't actually replace like data analyst, because there's still like a lot of stuff. Like if you train a model, like you still need, at least for now, like you still need a human to know like what's the right like factors that you would need to place in the model and stuff like that. So I think it's actually really good that we see this type of advancement, and I'm excited to see how ML gets more and more adopted in the Web3 world.
Very cool. Very interesting. I think that's like so inspiring. It's so easy to like have like a knee-jerk reaction where people see it as a threat, and then you get kind of scared and you try to push it away. Whereas, it could be so much more inspiring to just embrace it and incorporate it into your workflow and see how much it can like multiply your output, So yeah, awesome answer. I think that's inspiring. Um, we've arrived at the last question for now. Andrew, I was gonna ask you this one because I knew you'd have an opinion on this. Um, half jokingly, but also seriously, actually. Um, this question was also from Amok, by the way. He had a lot of good questions. He asked, "What is your greatest wish for the analytics community?" So yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Better events from protocol devs. Yeah, I think wish ultimately is that we have some sort of like data audit process, similarly to how you have like security audits with like code for Arena for code for Arena. I forgot which order it is. For Solidity bugs. Hopefully we have something like that for data in the future. I think protocols are already doing a better job of, or at least the big ones, of reaching out to wizards and data analysts for like opinions and thoughts on events to see if there's anything they can add. So I know that it is slowly improving, but hopefully sometime next year we have a better process around it. Otherwise, I think we're gonna have to start scoring protocols to let them know how bad their events are. Hopefully we don't get there, but I'm not against giving some protocols like a 20 out of 100 or something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this also touches on a more general, wider point about like professionalism of our space. Um, how do you see that? Like, where do you think we stand, and how far do you think we have to go? Um, how do you think it is going?
Professionalism. I mean, I think wizards are like fairly well respected now, or like data analysts. Sorry, I'm so used to saying wizards. Data analysts are like very well
Mhm.
respected in the space, I think now. But I mean, this is classic, like with any like Web 2 company, even is like you have this data, you have some analysts, no one really knows what they want out of the data. So we're slowly approaching like the Web 2 problem side of things of like, okay, the product teams are not really good at communicating with analysts like what they actually want. And because we don't really have
Mhm.
machine learning and like models being deployed yet, there's no like product metrics to really measure against. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's still fairly disconnected. I don't really know if that answers the question, but
No, I think the basic point is we're getting along, but we still got a way to go, and that's fine. I think that's also what's inspiring, um, me at least, and I think a lot of people to be part of this space is that, partly so much is still being formed. We're definitely like on a certain frontier, and I think that's really cool, and I think that goes for all the people who are on this panel today, but also like listening into the panel today. Everybody who joined our course, you probably wouldn't be doing this if you're not at least a bit adventurous, I think. For like so many reasons I could name, but I think we all know them. And I just think that's really cool. So on that note, I want to wrap it up. We do have some final announcements. Um, so first off, we started the talk with announcing the winner from the contest, but we had more educational bounties. So actually, we're starting another contest, and the contest has actually started right now. Um, I'll join the link in the chat. So as you recall, the first contest was on the DEX dashboards, but this one will be on the NFT dashboard. So if you build a NFT dashboard, you can go ahead to this link and join for round two, and you can vote. And let's have another winner who also win another 100x metric, of course. So yeah, that's really cool. So follow the link, go ahead. What else? Want to call out our new courses again, of course. If you hadn't signed up yet, please do. It's a great way to further your learning. So yeah, just take that shot, take that chance. Um, what else we got? Let me see. Oh, of course, if you were here and you hadn't registered your attendance yet, you might want to do that. We dropped it a couple times in the chat by now, but I'll drop it again, just to make it easy for you to find. Um, and you can register your attendance. All right. Also, we're running so far. We are running contests on the first two educational bounties, but we got two more coming up, and those ones are specifically for Dune dashboards. And we're gonna have contests for those two. But first, the closing date for this one, you'll have a lot more time. So we're extending the time until January 6th. end of day, you can turn in your Dune dashboards for the educational bounties. So yeah, take your time. You can work on them. Pay some extra attention to the data visualization, as Hildobby said. And I'm not like joking here. Like honestly, this will go a long way to you either winning this joke race or not, or coming second, third, or being at the bottom. Because like the people who vote for these also, that's how you look at a dashboard. First, you have to it has to be like easy to look at and to digest before you could actually really look at the data underneath. So yeah, that's everything from us. I want to thank our speakers, Agaperste, Andrew, and Hildobby. Thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your wisdom and your experience with us today, your insights, your tips, your strategies. I'm really glad to be in this space with you three. I think you're amazing people, and very inspiring. So yeah, thank you for being on, and I hope to see y'all soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.